On every world, at the exact midpoint, everybody stops and turns and hugs, as if to say, well done, everyone. We're halfway out of...
Pull to open.
Pull to open?
Yes, and what do you do?
Well, it's called Randomizer, and it's fitted to the guidance systems.
They're randomly generated. Reckon I'd know most of them.
It's a 5-year mission.
I just gave away 10 years of my life. Worth every second.
We've got to hold on to what we've got.
It doesn't make a difference if we make it or not.
We've got each other, and that's a lot for love. We'll give it a shot. Whoa, halfway there. Whoa, we're living on a prayer. Take my hand. We'll make it, I swear. Whoa. We're living on a prayer. And yes, we are living on a prayer.
Oh my God.
Praying that you're still listening after our grand opening to the halfway there episode of Pull to Open. I'm Pete Pachal.
And I'm Chris Taylor. And long ago, we were just a couple of guys, just a couple of journalists. Many, many years ago, 5 years ago, in fact, 5 years and 2 months ago, you and I, Pete, recorded a episode of this podcast, which we hadn't at the time quite figured out what it was doing, but we decided to go on a random journey for some random reason. And here we are, and it's now 5 years later, and we are more than just a couple of guys, couple of journalists. We're a couple of podcasters. I mean, this thing has just sort of happened and kind of blown up. And it's been a wild 5 years. And it's partly thanks to you, dear listener. And we do want to give you a big shout out in this special Halfway There show. We want to thank you just as much as we want to pat ourselves on the back and look through our own history as we hit this point of being halfway out of the dock.
And if you are new here and have no idea what we're talking about, hey, it's Pull to Open. We're a Doctor Who rewatch podcast. Our secret sauce is that we go through the entire television canon, all 63 almost years of it, 62 plus years of Doctor Who, but we do it in random order. So every week it is a new... often a new Doctor, often a new storyline. We jump all over the TV canon, and we do it via the randomizer, which we engage at the end of every commentary. It's been fun, but a little known fact: we didn't start out with the randomizer. That was an invention.
Well, yes, we didn't start out with the randomizer, and then Planet of Fire was our first show with the randomizer. We started saying we'll just watch through everything. We were using Google's random number generator at that point, and that before we switched to the more sophisticated random.org. But yeah, it's been an interesting experiment in randomness. We've seen so many connections, so many links, and I just want to give one very weird example, because you're probably listening to this right after listening to our last episode, which was the Sylvester McCoy opener, Time and the Rani, at the end of which the randomizer picked another Sylvester McCoy story, which I had asked for, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. And it took us a while to realize this, but this was the exact midpoint of Pull to Open, right? So that whatever the randomizer picked would have some meaning. So it picked story number 63 out of the ones that are left. No, well, 63.
That's the randomizer number. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, isn't it?
Yeah, that was because... Yes, the randomizer number rather than the story. Sorry, randomizer number 63. Yeah.
So of the stories up till this story, there were 63 stories. It's the 63rd. That we have still to do because we crossed them off the codex. Just in case you're confused.
Yeah. So anyway, there was one. Put it this way: there was one time in all of Pull to Open history when the number 63 corresponded to the title "The Greatest Show in the Galaxy."
Right.
And the randomizer chose it then, which makes me think, first of all, the randomizer is actually a Whovian.
Actually, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, right.
I got it. Also, I would just note it's borderline halfway through the entire show. Like it's not quite. Like it's a little. So basically, in our numbering system. So by the way, we're talking about the Pull to Open Codex, which is our list of all the Doctor Who stories in sequential order. The link is in the show notes. It is our tome. It is our guide. It is the source of the randomizer's. Its destination, the way it thinks. So our numbering system is a little different from numbering systems you might have seen. So the story numbers won't match exactly what you might see on the TARDIS wiki or whatever. But every time we do one of these, we cross off one of the shows, and then the story numbers. There's a different number than that is the randomizer number, and those change every week because we cross stuff off. So this was, you're right. This is the one chance it had to pick a story called The Greatest Show in the Galaxy when it was the number 63, which, of course, as everyone knows, is the year Doctor Who came out.
Indeed.
In the world.
In the world, yes, 1963. It's the show that's been running since then. And I do want to give a shout out to newbies, to new listeners. If you are listening to this the first time, you are coming to us fresh, and you're thinking, wow, that's a lot to dive into. They've had 160 stories that they've talked about already. Well, yes, but this is the thing about Doctor Who, is you can really jump on at any point. And this has sort of been the secret source of this podcast, I think, is that, a lot of people get intimidated by the size of the Doctor Who canon. Just the sheer number of seasons in the classic show, and even in the new show now, it's like more than any casual viewer can handle.
The new show recently has not been very very friendly in terms of that. In terms of you could just jump on. It's actually been quite reverent and referential to stuff that has long before the recent stuff. But that's neither here nor there. We're not commenting about the recent era of Doctor Who. Today, we're talking about our show, Pull to Open, and we're going to do a little bit of look back and look forward and talk about some of the quirks of the show and what we're looking forward to as we progress through the second half of Doctor Who.
Indeed, we are halfway there. We are welcoming you, new listeners, to join us on the second half, because honestly, people will tell you the best way to watch the show is start at Rose, start on an Unearthly Child, whatever. I say the best way to start the show is just jump on with us and just watch what we're watching every week, and then we'll have a fun party talking about it. But anyway, there's a lot to talk about, and we should get straight to it, because thank goodness this week we don't have anything like the Humoji challenge. We're going to take a little break from that, right, Pete?
Well, absolutely we are not going to not talk about the Humoji challenge. We're going to do some Humoji challenge look back. So you are actually a little bit off the hook. We're not actually going to torture you. This is normally the part of the podcast where I torture Chris and throw some emojis at him, and he's got to rack his brain and try to think of the story that those emojis represent. We have a great time. Well, I do every single week when we do this. But we're not doing that right now. We're actually going to talk in a meta way, as we are this week, about the Humoji challenge.
Yeah, because you contribute your Humojis when you leave a review, first of all. In case you don't know, that's the way to jump to the head of the line. And we have had a lot of enthusiastic Humoji contributors, and some have been more enthusiastic than others. And we have an announcement for all you listening out there. If you contributed a Humoji, we take note of that. We take note of who does it, how many times, and there is one clear winner. Of the listener Humoji challenge in terms of submitting them. And Pete, would you like to announce? I don't know if we want to do this like in reverse order. The top four.
Sure, let's do it in reverse order. So speaking of 63, so these are the top four contributors to our Humojis per the Codex. And I should mention, in first interest of full disclosure, per ChatGPT's analysis of the Codex. Don't worry, I didn't actually just point it at a link. I gave it the actual file so that I knew it had the data to work with. Sometimes when you give it websites, it can make stuff up. So this is pretty grounded, I think. So number four, tied for third.
Joint number 3, yeah.
Tied for third. We have two numbered contributors. There is JC17 Ace and Dalton 1963, both with 9 Homojis in the codex. Very
These are all
prolific.
names that I associate with my torturers. Thanks, guys.
I know JC17 Ace has submitted some of those even on Patreon, which we don't talk about as much anymore because we're not very active there. I do intend to eventually get back to Patreon and do some more with it. But we have a presence on Patreon, which we haven't talked about in a long time. It's another great place to sort of leave stuff because occasionally I check it, and we probably will do more soon. So moving on from platforms, we're going to go to the number 2 spot. It's a special gentleman who we've had the privilege of actually meeting in person at Long Island Who twice for the past couple of years, and it is CT Tig. He's given us 10 Homojis.
Yes. Well, wow, that's incredible, CT Tig, and you're probably you can see right now kicking yourself, going, "What? I'm not the number one." Because, I don't know, it seems like I've had more CT Tig ones than anything else, but it's not actually the case.
It's not the case, and he's got some catching up to do, CT. Sorry if you really want to be at the number 1 spot. The number 1 Humoji submitter of Pull to Open for all time so far is Bob Gilby, who has submitted, I don't think he's actually submitted something in a while, but for a couple of years there, I think he was quite prolific and dropping Humojis on YouTube comments, on social comments. He was, and he would send a bunch at once. So I think he built up a bank that, and a commanding lead that's going to be tough for anyone to beat at this point, but still possible. There's a lot of stories we do not have Homojis for, and we got a whole second half of the canon, folks. So
that's right. That's the thing. We have 160 shows left, at least. Plus, however many more they make going forward. So, in theory, if we're doing 160 more Homojis, God help me, there's plenty of time to beat these numbers. And we will return to this ultimate Humoji listener challenge when we end the show. We'll name a final winner and maybe have them on.
Nice.
In the year 2031. Because that's the other thing that I want to talk about right up front, Pete, is this has taken us 5 years so far, and we're halfway through. And as it was put in a recent story we went to, David Tennant says he's given the TARDIS 10 years of his life to bring it back to life, and he said it was worth every second. We are going to have given this 10 years of our lives minimum, this journey.
At least.
And I wanted to ask you, so I've been listening, I went back and I listened to our very first random episode, Planet of Fire. And before I talk about it, there are some issues with it. I'd like to critique it. I'd like to Clara Splinter it and maybe figure out how we could deal with the plot holes in the production of the episode, but we'll get to that. I want to know, do you remember anything from the beginning of this journey in terms of, I don't think we even discussed how long this was going to take. We just embarked on this.
Nope. Yeah, we just kind of jumped in. So I do remember, so disclosure, you and I have worked together at Mashable,
yes,
where I was the tech editor, and I forget your title, editor at large?
Let's go with editor at large, yeah, let's
do that. But we were on opposite coasts, but we talked all the time, and we both knew we were Doctor Who fans, and we'd talk about it whenever we would get together, because I would visit San Francisco, you'd visit New York, and I remember we toyed with the idea of this.
The Way Station bar in
the Way Station, yep,
which doesn't exist anymore.
No, I don't know. I used to live 2 blocks from the Way Station, by the way, so it was super fun to pop by, just pop in whenever I wanted to see the TARDIS. Yep. I've got so many pictures of me. Yep. It's just now I think since the show is so popular here in the States now, there's probably a lot of places you can do that now, but that was very unique back in the 2000s, early 2010s. So
you went to the bathroom through the TARDIS. I remember that. It was like worst bar in New York to go to the bathroom in because there's like Whovians taking pictures all the time. Anyway.
Yeah, but I remember I floated the idea, hey, we should do a Doctor Who podcast. Because that's what Mashable was kind of doing at the time. They were becoming like a lot of sites. Hey, we're into Game of Thrones. We're into all these franchises. And we were like, hey, Doctor Who's cool. And we were doing recaps. We could do more with it. So I actually sort of thought of it as maybe even like a Mashable franchise we could do. But we never got around to doing it. We were both so busy. And then I left Mashable, and then there was a period at the end of 2019 where I was between jobs, and I approached it. Hey, I finally have some free time. I could maybe get this going, and so we did. But then I got a job. But I decided, even though I got the job right before I started my new job, I was like, I want to kick this off and get it going and see where it goes. Let's do it. And this was like during the Christmas holiday, 2019, almost 2020. I think we recorded either December 30th or 31st, because I think we uploaded it that weekend, like basically on like January 1st or close to it in 2020. And that was the first episode of Pull to Open. It was really rough and ready. There's no opening. Our equipment was whatever we kind of could find in our basements or stole from the Mashable office.
We didn't have video.
We didn't have video, even though I think we did record. We were doing Skype, so we had some video here and there. So I'm pretty sure if you go to the very first podcast ever, there is some video if you look for it on YouTube, because they're all the seasons of Pull to Open, which came later, are all on YouTube.
Don't necessarily recommend that you go back and listen to it. I will
definitely
say
don't recommend.
I
know a lot of people have.
Here and say my favorite piece of writing advice from Kurt Vonnegut is he did a book called Pity the Reader, which I think is a great 3-word piece of writing advice. Pity the reader. I think what we learned very quickly in Pull to Open is pity the listener, and we got so much better so fast. But yeah, that very beginning one, that Planet of Fire, we had sort of pulled to Open down for a bit.
Right. Well, Planet of Fire was later, actually.
Yeah. So it was 2021. So
right.
We're talking about our random journey here. I think we should get straight to the random journey. We did sort of stumble a little bit in terms of what are we doing with this podcast, and then we hit upon the idea. And I think I only have myself to blame for the idea.
Yeah. This was your idea.
Yes. I know that we talked a lot about the Greatest Generation podcast.
Yes. Star Trek Rewatch podcast.
Such a good name.
Definitely a bit of an inspiration for doing what we're doing.
100%. And, and I think I was like, yeah, well, it wouldn't necessarily be such a good thing for any other story to talk about it randomly. Like, I can't think about any other franchise where you could do what we're doing and it would work as well as it does. Like, Doctor Who trains you, I think, to bounce around randomly in time and space. So just perfect idea. I was amazed none of the Doctor Who podcasts had hit on it before. But I definitely was not thinking at that beginning how long we were going to have to devote to this. I just no concept of it. Didn't even sit down and think. And there's sort of, one of our most famous episodes that's not a random story is we went through the cold opens, infamous between us because we spent more time looking at those cold opens than we would have done actually watching. I think the Seeds of Death it was. We were trying to avoid
easily.
We did that one.
Yeah.
So the whole podcast has been a bit like that, right? Looking at it from the 30,000 feet view. What would you say? I'm interested because one thing that is clear right from the start is you are the Doctor Who expert here. No question. You are the most informed person about Doctor Who, the TV show, I have ever spoken to. And I think something that comes across in those early episodes is I'm like a little like, I don't know, I don't think defensive is the right word, but I'm like trying to keep up, trying to remember what I can remember, because I was much more of a casual fan, even though I really, really loved it as a kid. And then it just sort of settled down. I just sort of settled down into like, okay, I'm the guy who knows less about. I'm going, Pete has seen a lot of these that we're going through, like, and this actually works. That chemistry actually works. But I want to ask you first of all, what have you, a major Doctor Who head, learned in the last 5 years by going through the show randomly?
Wow. Okay. Big question. I've learned that there's a lot of different eras of the show, obviously, but I think as a fan of our age, right, where both of us came to know and love Doctor Who when we were younger, when we were boys or adolescent or I forget when exactly. You were probably a little younger than me when you first saw it.
Yeah, I was.
The point is, it's like formative. Yeah, it's formative years though. Like I came to it probably when I was about 9, 10 for the first time, and then in the sort of junior high, middle school years, that was like when I was just extreme. Like that's where I got most of my knowledge of Doctor Who that I've never forgotten. It's got written into my ROM. Like it basically, like core program was a lot of it written by that show, and not just Doctor Who, obviously, but that's I think when you catch it at a certain time, I've certainly shown Modern Who to adult friends and other friends, and they enjoy it, but it doesn't resonate with them in quite the same way, I think. So, but at the same time, when you come back to it many decades later, because a lot of these episodes I have not seen in a long time, even though I was videotaping them back in the 80s. You grow up, you get jobs, and it sort of falls off. So by the 90s, it was just like, oh yeah, that was the thing I was into. I still have more memories of it, and we'll occasionally read books and stuff, but I sort of thought I'd moved on. So then coming back to it now in this podcast, because I'd never, with New Who, obviously there was a whole different surge. I suppose I've learned more about a lot more about the world, have different views and more, I hope to think, more sophisticated views on just sort of how the world works. But then I kind of I come back to these stories, and a lot of them are still very resonant, and I think part of that is that we deliberately kind of look for that. But I actually do think a lot of it has always been there. And that knowing a lot more because of the research we do of the people involved. And again, I'm not trying to say that they were out to do politics all the time or something. Don't misinterpret me. And in fact, I think explicitly, a lot of them have said they weren't, which is great. But I do think they had a lot of things to observe about our world, which might not have been all that obvious to like a 13-year-old kid, right? So coming back, I'm just sort of I'm very much learning about the past and where people thought things would go and aspirations and that their ideas of the future. And I've got a much better sort of sense of, how that compares to the real world now and where I think that core code in me could maybe even be directed in some ways, if you know what I mean. So in other words, I've sort of understood a little bit more about myself and how I might regard things and believe things because I was such a fan of this show and sort of watching where it diverges from the world and where I think it was right and think it was wrong has been just really illuminating. I didn't think it would be. I thought it'd be just like a pure nostalgia play, but I really enjoy talking about the themes and the things it's trying to say about the world now. That's the main thing I've learned.
Yeah, the cultural time capsule aspect of Doctor Who is really fascinating. Should not be underrated, even by serious scholars. I mean, I know we're just joshing around here. We're just having fun on one level, but at the same time, we're studying the world's longest running televised story, and that is not nothing. And I never knew that this would be, in part, a British politics podcast. Because I've sort of had to explain everything from, remember when we did Terror of the Zygons, I had to talk about, who is the she that's prime minister at that? Because, Britain hadn't had a female prime minister yet. So who were we referring to? Turns out it's probably Shirley Williams, not Margaret Thatcher. But that's oh my God, I didn't know we would talk so much about Britain in the 70s and British politics in general and the 80s.
Happiness Patrol, you mentioned Thatcher,
Thatcher,
go back and listen to that one.
You can't not, because it was so overt and so obvious, and everyone was like, "Yeah, that was Thatcher." Everyone involved it. It's not even. We're not even stretching it. Yeah, so that really fascinated me. But okay,
I have a question for you now.
Yep.
So I roped you into this kind of like it was something I really pushed, and then you took to it, and I'm really glad you did, and I'm super happy to do this week in and week out with you. Why do you keep going?
I didn't consider that. All right, I'm done. CP.
Didn't think there was an option to eject.
I hadn't thought of that. I could. You mean I could abandon? I'm not actually chained to this desk. No. Why do I keep going? Because oh my god, this is the questiest quest that ever quested. I think. It's a new tagline for Pull to Open. But like, oh my god, we are doing a thing that I, as a child, would have wanted to do. I think the idea, even as a child, I think the idea of doing it in random order would have really appealed to my, I know now, ADHD brain. But it's so, I mean, I wrote this book, as you know, about Star Wars, the history of Star Wars, and treating Star Wars as sort of this cultural artifact that was born and had a life beyond George Lucas, right?
What's the title of that book, Chris?
How Star Wars Conquered the Universe, available in all good bookstores and on Audible now. But yeah, we've gotten very good at inserting ads. I will say about our podcast style. But this is a similar thing, right? But it's even larger body, and coming to it randomly. There's also this like genuine. I know we joke around about it, but like genuinely. I mean, we were just talking at Gallifrey 1 to a NASA scientist who is like genuinely afraid of randomness, because like that's one of the avenues through which scientists think they can tell us that we may be living in a holographic universe, right? And that's sort of explored in Extremis. And we talked about how scared we are of the randomizer sending us to Extremis. So there are multiple things going on that have their hooks in my brain. And one of them that I didn't expect is that I am an avid listener to Pull to Open. I didn't think. Like, eating your own dog food, as they say in Silicon Valley, is really underrated. And I don't know how many podcasters do it. I'm sure there are some podcasters who, like me at the start of Pull to Open, could not stand to listen to the sound of their own voice, cringed every time they said or and, or like all of that stuff. Or, oh my God, I'm talking too long. What am I saying? Once I got past that, it became a feedback loop, right? I think the more that we listened, the more that we got better. And I will give a shout out for my pick for when Pull to Open got good, which is Inferno. Once we got to Inferno, I think we'd solved a lot of our sort of audio issues, and we had more of a patter going. That was the first episode where I can remember listening and really enjoying it.
Yeah,
so
I
Pull
agree.
to Open has not become like, we usually record on a Sunday, which is what we're doing right now. So Pull to Open's become part of the fabric of my Sunday mornings, like every other Sunday mornings generally when we do it. But it's also become part of the fabric of my Saturday mornings when it's gotten released. And there's something special about Saturday in general. It is Doctor Who Day. For those of you in the UK, you know it. Like, don't even try. 80s Doctor Who, what are you even doing trying to put it on any other day? Like, it's a Saturday tea time thing. It always was. But Pull to Open has become a Saturday morning thing for me. And it's like, it's one of those things that, like, instead of Saturday morning cartoons, I get up and I'm like, oh, I'm excited. It's Saturday. There's a new Pull to Open. I'm making a coffee. I'm like, going and sitting outside with the coffee, listening to the episode and enjoying it. And one of our listeners said, the success of the podcast is all down to the fact that it sounds like you and I are at a party. We're having a conversation at a party. It's a really interesting conversation. And you, the listener, are invited in. And, and sometimes you, the listener, includes me, includes you. And, we're part of that. So I didn't expect that. I think that's what keeps me going. Like, I really want to see what happens next in terms of the randomness. And I want to see what happens next in terms of the show, and in terms of like, does it improve my opinion of an episode? Like, all of this stuff that I wanted to watch. Like, I was just thinking about this. If you'll touch me one more thing.
Okay.
Before Pull to Open, the Doctor Who canon was available. I could have watched all of Classic Who from like when it arrived on Netflix, minus missing episodes, from when it arrived on Netflix in like 2010. Good old days. We didn't know what we had. But I didn't. And every time I tried, like I remember watching the first episode of Spearhead from Space, I'd be like, but like I'd see how old it was, and I'd sort of feel embarrassed that I was a Doctor Who fan a little bit, but I just needed something to push me through it, you know? Because I'm used to watching Doctor Who every week, right? That's the pace with which you grow up, and you grow up watching it every day. Like once you encountered it, and my God,
For the first time.
I wish I'd had access to PBS stations showing it repeatedly at that kind of cadence. So this show has pushed me into watching it. To making my rewatch less haphazard as well of the new show. And I like the idea that we will, at the end of this, in another 5 years, have watched the entire canon in a way that no one else ever has or ever will.
Right. That's cool. I'm really glad that... because my experience is very similar in terms of like I do like listening to the show as well. I like making the show. I don't love all the lever pulling in terms of editing and all the things I need to do week to week. Although AI is starting to help more and more with that. So don't worry, guys. Human will always be in the loop, and I'm very one of the reasons I can't offload it all to AI because I'm very meticulous about things like the Humoji challenge and putting the layers into the edit and all this stuff. But it is super fun, and because it's fun to do it with you. It's fun to talk about Doctor Who with a good friend, and we all and sort of like in the attitude that we have about it. That we're hard on the show sometimes. Sure, we don't hold back our criticism, but it's all coming out of a place of love is the easy word, but it's meaning. It's kind of like what I was getting at earlier. Like we're critiquing not just the show but ourselves because it's so important to us. It was so formative for us. Certainly speaking for me, it was. And so, whenever I criticize, it's almost like I'm being hard on myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, because this show is so meaningful to me.
Well, I think that one thing that's happened as we've explored is that we've sort of dropped the idea that there's any meaningful Doctor Who canon in any sense. Like, we're not trying to say, is this canon, is that canon? We're just, I think, I don't know, is this your experience that, like, as we go through the show, I'm just like, screw it, This is such a mess. We've made a jigsaw of the Doctor's history. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
I think a lot of it's like you almost have to look at franchises in general and how they've all evolved. And I remember because I grew up with all the comic book continuities, and they would try to clean them up every 10 years or so with something like a Crisis on Infinite Earths, and people would come up with elaborate rules on what's in Elseworld and what's in the main universe. And you kind of need to do that to some extent to sort of have a comprehensible franchise. But at some point, like everybody kind of stopped caring and was just like, let's just tell good stories. And everyone realized the fans will fill in the blanks and have fun doing it, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. So yeah, like canon in most franchises, in my view, doesn't really matter. And it kind of like depends, certainly in something like Game of Thrones, where it's a very elaborate storyline that's kind of a different thing. But ultimately, like at the end of the day, let's do something that is true to the spirit of the show, and then we'll contort the canon around it to make it work, And again, and that goes the other way too. When you do something that is kind of against the spirit, we'll contort the canon so that we can conveniently ignore it.
Yes, exactly. And this is why we brought in the Clara Splinter, all of the stuff. I think that's been one of the most enjoyable things about being on this journey with you, is that we've made our own canon. Full to Open canon has adjusted to fit the needs of the show. And one thing I've done, of course, is introduced a lot of ratings. we now have 7 ratings for the episodes. Now that we've had a good chunk
just
of
rubbing salt in my sensitive wounds.
Well, here's the thing I want to say about re-listening to Planet of Fire. It was clear from the very start that I was going to hybridize the heck out of everything. Because you asked me at the start of Planet of Fire, we were so innocent. You said, do you think this is a Dalek or an Ogron? And I said, I think it's half a Dalek. I think, like, forced to choose, I said Ogron, and you're like, really? And I said, oh, okay, half Dalek. And what I really meant was half Dalek, half Ogron. Right. So I just wanted to be right on that line. But yes, we also have, so ChatGPT also told us that you have used 23 distinct rating labels, as in terms of, the ratings plus your hybrids. So you have indulged in a few hybrids too. But that is nothing. That is nothing compared to my 36 distinct ratings.
In any case, we're both more than 7.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
that's the thing. You start experimenting. Start experimenting with these ratings. You want to do hybrids, but you've chosen the Dalek 80 times.
That sounds right. Because it's like the Dalek is a good episode of Doctor Who, and if I wasn't choosing it a lot of the time, what am I even doing?
I just realized, since we've covered 160 stories, that means literally half of the time you've given it a Dalek.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's a pretty good hit rate. But we also match exactly 87 of 158 jointly rated stories, also according to ChatGPT. And we're within one tier of rating on 114 out of 158. I don't know why it's not against the full 160 ratings, but there we go.
Well, that means we've diverged 44 times, something like that.
44 by generations.
Not just for Blam.
Yeah. Yes, well, you could look at it that way, or you could say that we're pretty aligned when it comes down to it. We're, or at least we're highly suggestible, and we're persuading each other of ratings a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny, like, we didn't ask ChatGPT this because I'd probably have to do a ton of research and we'll probably get it wrong. But we don't really have a good sense of, like, we might have a good sense on individual stories of where our consensus diverges with fan consensus, right? And I do feel like a couple things. One, I think we have some unique things to say about things, partly because we're journalists, partly because we're fans of a lot of other, well, everyone's sort of fans of a bunch of other genre stuff. But I also just feel like we have like we account for nostalgia in our rating system. You know what I mean? So it's not actually that bad that I've actually made my peace with our rating system expanding to 7, right? Because I'm usually more of a like thumbs up, thumbs down guy. Like tell me if it sucks or doesn't. But I mean, Doctor Who just has too many dimensions to it, especially if you're talking to different audiences. So if you're talking to longtime fans, if you're talking to folks who are more casual fans of the franchise, which I think is probably one of the biggest divergences we might have with fan consensus, because I always sort of want to factor in, well, Doctor Who's a mass market show. And this is also why we talk about the TV show. And we're not doing the big we might someday, but we're not doing big finishes. We're not doing novels, because those are by definition for people who are like hardcore Doctor Who fans. And I think, again, I don't necessarily think the podcast reaches a ton of casual fans, but I also think they're an important part of why Doctor Who is such the phenomenon that it is today. And I do think thinking about that, and I think our journalistic perspective brings that, like, does this have that kind of mass appeal when we look at something? And I'm actually thinking of a specific episode here, but there's probably others, which is like to say and I don't want to reopen a lot of things, but I mean, I'll just point to it as an example of this, which is the Curse of Fenric, which we've kind of like taken a beating over in the comments on YouTube and everyone else, because, shocker, we're not super aligned with fan consensus on that, which I totally understand where they're coming from. You know what I mean? Like, I do, and I think this comes through in a lot of our podcasts. We do appreciate how the deeper story they're trying to tell there. And to some extent, on a story level, it does work. I think, though, when you factor in sort of the perspectives that we're also trying to take into account, you can kind of at least understand where we're coming from on something like that.
Let me ask you this, since we're talking about ratings, is there something that sticks out in your head as the wrong rating that you gave something, and you'd like to go back and change it? I'll tell you mine, which is Marco Polo, which I gave a fixed point in time, and I remember you being furious at me at the time. Go back and listen to that one. But yeah,
I was
think
still
the
in my
more-
sucks or not phase.
Yeah, the more that I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, there is enough of this, and certainly comparing it with other missing episodes, right? One of the interesting things in the Planet of Fire podcast, Pete, was you said, I'm looking forward to tackling some missing episodes. I don't know how we're going to do that. Oh boy, how innocent we were. We have done a lot of missing episodes. I think ChatGPT also told us that.
True.
But I think it about halfway through? Yeah, we're halfway through the missing episodes.
Nice.
But that was mine. What about you?
Black Orchid. I was way too hard on it. I see. The thing is, I grew up with Davison. Davison was my doctor. I was very happy to have finally met him. I'd never met him before until I'd met him at Gallifrey One this last month. Love his era. Love a lot of his stories. Just love his doctor. And I had just listened to the commentary of that episode, which has the whole TARDIS crew. And Davison's very hard on that episode. And there are like problems with it. Like, I go ahead and listen to the podcast. There are definitely problems. But I just think you got that one so much better than me, and that it's not really about the story at all. It's about the vibes. And this, as a vibes episode, it's great. It's actually really good. So I would love to get that one back. I'd probably give it a Dalek, and probably a pretty strong Dalek at this point, because it's just, you think about Black Orchid and you don't think, ooh, that's so dumb. You think, oh, that was a really fun jaunt in the British countryside. And honestly, like I'm also thinking of my sister, who actually, she loved this growing up and would watch it over and over. And even though they got a little annoying, I think back to that and I'm like, why would she? Because it's like, it's got this great relationship stuff. It's got Adric pigging out at the buffet, the Charleston. Everyone's wearing interesting stuff for a change. It's like, this is really good. I would completely, if we're giving like ourselves every time we go halfway through, we can revise one. I would definitely revise Black Orchid.
Interesting. So you just for listeners, so Pete gave it an Ogron, I gave it a Dalek, and you're saying you would revise it to a Dalek, or and one of the other ratings? Yeah.
I might. I'd have to think about it. Maybe we'll do it again, or revisit it in some more meaningful way. But it could be a Cassandra. But actually, I think it's great to look at, but it's less about what to look at. It's more about how you feel. And so I don't know if that fits entirely. So anyway, but
we need an 8th rating, vibes-based Doctor Who. No, we don't need that. But okay,
we'll break
so here's
Spotify if we do another rating.
I want to say, first of all, keep it right here, because we're going to reveal in this podcast who the Doctor we've done the most stories from.
Oh wow!
is.
Yes, we are. Well, before we do that, though, very important to point out that readers, listeners, watchers can do all of those things that they're not doing. So if you're a reader or a watcher, you basically follow us on social media, Pull to Open, Pull to Open 63 on most networks. Subscribe to our newsletter, pulltoopen.net. Great place to also get reminded there's a show. Hey, if you're not on YouTube, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or some other podcast app, our goal this year is to really boost our YouTube numbers. YouTube has such massive reach. I don't know if folks out there realize how important it is to the podcast community. If you have a podcast, the more followers you get, the more it'll be put in front of more people. So if you don't follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube, please do. And if you do, hey, make sure you have the notification thing turned on so you know whenever we have a new podcast. And you can, every Saturday morning, just like Chris, you can, run to your iPhone and listen up. So do all that. And please give us a rating and review.
Yes, and okay, I'm going to, we'll get to the doctors in a bit, but I do want to say that thank you, ChatGPT. It's rare that I say that, but it did tell us this amazing statistic that made me feel so happy, which is that we may be halfway through the number of stories, but we are more than halfway through the number of episodes of Doctor Who, right? Mm-hmm. That is really good news. We are at 56.2% of all installments in the spreadsheet. We have covered 501 of 892 episodes. Because the first half skewed more towards longer classic serials. The stories we've already done average 3.13 episodes, which is like, given the amount of filler in the old show, that feels like what most stories should have been. While the ones left average 2.44. That's fascinating. We're more than halfway there, Pete.
We are, and I definitely could sort of speak to a little bit of why these are sort of skewing this way. Well, obviously, New Who has fewer episodes in the stories, right? So at the most, you have a 3-parter. Well, I guess you have Flux, but we've done it. So while we have done more episodes, I don't necessarily think the runtime is skewed, right? The runtime that we have left is probably an even split, because we still have some very long episodes to do, like the Daleks Master Plan and the Daleks. So there's a few in there. So theoretically, even though I think ChatGPT's thinking we might move faster through the rest of it, I think it's fine. Also, regardless of how many episodes we think we've done, it's not going to help when we get to Daleks Master Plan. It's not going to feel super long.
Is it weird that I'm looking forward to that? I'm like, it's going to be such a huge lift, and we're going to like bury our head in our hands when it happens, but then we just got to do it, we just got to get through all those missing episodes. We've got to read up on it. We've got to see, Nicholas Courtney's first appearance. It will activate me once we get there, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I made sure that I had both of the novels for Daleks Master Plan, because, God forbid they put it in one novel and it got too long. So it's funny they have like two novels for Daleks Master Plan. So I wanted to make sure when we do get to it that I am ready with the reference material. So it's going to be a good one. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it too, even though it's the longest. I forget I think Flux might have been a little longer technically, but it's roughly around the same time. And I've never seen it. I've actually never actually sat down and either watched a reconstruction or listened to the audio or what have you. So I'm thrilled to sort of finally be able to do that at some point in the next 5 years.
So let me ask you another question, and I'll give you the grounding in it. But the question is, when were you most scared of the randomizer? I'll give you a second to think about that, because the other thing listening to Planet of Fire reminded me, the randomizer has done some scary things in its time, but it started out with the chameleon curse, which you said at the end of the first end of Planet of Fire. You were like, this is, and it took us to King's Demons, which is the only other major chameleon story, right? So, and you talked about the chameleon curse. Yeah.
There's 5 doctors in there that we haven't done. And there's technically like some stories where he would have been on board the TARDIS, but he's not really in it.
But in terms of major chameleon appearances, it's those two. And you told me that there was a curse about like everyone who worked on Chameleon had died, and like that's the curse that the randomizer did first. And of course, we don't even need to, you know what you're thinking of when I say curse, which is the pirate curse that is still upon us.
Right.
When we were supposed to go to Curse of the Black Spot, we didn't. The randomizer started throwing pirate stories at us. We still haven't officially gone to Curse of the Black Spot, but that's when we feel that curse will be lifted. But what other moments can you remember when you felt like the randomizer was alive?
Yeah, there's been some where it's kind of seemingly listened to both of us. That's really rare, though. I would say that it's less about being scared and more of what the randomizer is doing. And it was the fear early on where, are we just going to do all the bangers in a row? Because we had gotten like Day of the Doctor and Genesis of the Daleks and the 10th Planet and the Inferno. And we'd gotten like a bunch of bangers. And I honestly thought, I was looking like, oh man, are we going to run out of good Doctor Who if the randomizer keeps doing this? And certainly that was silly. And we did a whole podcast on it at the time. But that's kind of what I fear when it's like it's going to skew somehow my perspective on the show in some way, and maybe not for the better. So that's always sort of a lingering fear. But sometimes it's it's that's why I tend to ask it for opposites at the end of the show, because I know it's going to ignore me and it'll flip it around.
That's right. We've learned that about the randomizer.
And it's less about what we ask for and more about like what it's seeing in the background. I mean, remember recently I had some Cybermen stuff up because it was a Troughton episode, and then it just decided to do Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen. It was like, oh, okay. That kind of thing. So
there have been a lot of personal meanings, but yes, just the question of like, are we burning through the bangers? We still have to do Tomb of the Cybermen, Caves of Androzani, Remembrance of the Daleks, Empty Child Doctor Dances, 11th Hour, Vincent and the Doctor, Turn Left, World Enough and Time the Doctor Falls.
The TV movie too.
And the TV movie, yeah. Yeah, I know. The randomizer, it's interesting. We'll get into like which doctors the randomizer seems to like the most. But I will say it's bizarre how incomplete things are. Like, I know there was only a 50-50 chance of it going to the TV movie so far, but like, come on, randomizer. Completing your Paul McGann bingo card was right there. You could have done it at any time. But anyway, no, it hasn't done that. But it also, like, we've only finished one season.
More than one now.
We have?
Yeah, so we have a couple of Pertwee seasons in the bank now.
Oh,
so
okay.
We have season 7.
Yes.
And season 10. So we've done all of season 10.
Oh my God, we did all of season 10. We didn't even notice.
We didn't even notice. Yeah. So everything from the 3 Doctors to the Green Death is complete.
Oh yes. Yeah. So we would have done that pretty early on, and not even noticed.
Not that early. I forget. I'm trying to see which one is the most recent of those. Now I've got the Codex open. But the most recent one would have been, looks like Planet of the Daleks. So when we did Planet of the Daleks, that was the one.
And we didn't realize. We finished the season. We got the season bingo. We didn't even see it. Oh, my God. Well, this is the wonderful
podcast
thing
here, guys. It's all fine.
I love this about Pull to Open, and we should never change. We should never get more professional, because the fact that we just sort of do this stuff is part of the charm of the show. Like, this is the equivalent of, like, the set is wobbling. The villain has bubble wrap all over him. Like that. It's classic Doctor Who stuff. We're doing this on a shoestring here, folks.
Well, I wouldn't mind a little more professional, but I do admit we've gotten more professional as time goes on. So you mentioned sort of when we got good with Inferno. I agree. I think with Inferno, there was a certain enthusiasm that I could tell I was bringing to the project, and I was having more fun with the titles that I put on the podcast episodes, and I was enjoying writing the blurbs that we put in the show notes, and just kind of getting a little more meticulous with it. When you have a personal project that you really like a hobby, and you just start to get like, oh, I'm really into this. That was really right around that time. But I will say, in terms of production quality, I don't think things got good until we got the music from Martin West. And so Martin West, there's a person I really want to single out as vastly improving the podcast because of his involvement. He's just went above and beyond and did a whole soundtrack for us, essentially for free. And it's fabulous. Again, it's one of these things about the internet and fandoms where you just kind of like, this is great. This is really one of the fabulous aspect of it. So once we had gotten music, and we had been using, like, it's not like we hadn't had music, but we had sort of off the shelf stuff, and we were throwing things together. And then when Martin came in, we had an outro, we had jingles, we had audio stings that were all unique to the show. We still obviously use them all today. And it really just leveled up the level of professionalism to the point where I wanted to level up. And really around the same time, we started using more professional podcast recording software. I got a better microphone. And now again, all of this stuff probably would have happened to some extent, but I remember thinking like, oh, if we're going to like let's step up. And I think we largely have. I think there's more to do. I think certainly there are easier ways of adding more professionalism through AI, and I'm looking forward to exploring those this year. Again, I acknowledge there's probably some people in the audience that are like hearing AI and have a little bit of probably a negative view of it. I'm not at all thinking like we're going to have AI generated content. That's not what I'm talking about. But like using intelligent assistants to sort of help you make something a little bit better, particularly since I'm not a video editor. I'm not an audio editor, and to my knowledge, neither are you, right? So we're the fact that we're even able to do this at all is kind of a miracle. But now with new kinds of intelligent software, I think we're be able to take things to another level in the coming months. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
What you just said sounds like a Doctor Who cold open. What could possibly go wrong? It's okay. We'll just let this AI loose within the show. It'll be fine.
It's let's WOTAN was the software, I think.
That sounds pretty
fine.
good. Yeah, I think the German programmer pronounces it Wotan, but that shouldn't
I'll
be.
just rename it something else. BOSS. No problem.
There we go, and we sell it to energy companies. Anyway, so here's the thing. So we've been getting more professional in our charmingly amateur way, but also the stories that we're covering. It's been classic series heavy so far. Therefore, we have had a greater percentage of wobbly sets than we're going to have going forward, right? So the shows going forward are going to be more professional, right? And what are the numbers here? We've got. I'm just searching through.
Just in terms of what we've done.
Yeah, in terms of what we've done. Classic stories so far. I'm trying to find the list here, but yeah, it's more to go. Here are the missing episodes. By the way, we've done 12 missing episode stories. And we've got
the first half.
It
says here we've done 93 classic stories and 67 modern stories, and so on the back half it's flipped. It's 95 modern and 65 classic. And what I didn't mention when I was talking about the breakdown before, one of the obvious reasons we have more modern Who to do is because they were making Doctor Who while we were doing the podcast. So if you go to the Codex, the biggest gap is really at the end of the Codex, which is the Shudigawa era. We've only done one story, which is the Church on Ruby Road, officially for the podcast. But of course, we've done hot takes on all of them as they were happening. So that's obviously skewing things heavily towards the modern era. But for some reason, the randomizer had as a weird allergy to Matt Smith, which I'll just point out is my second favorite Doctor.
Same.
And he's there's a whole part of season or series 6 and series 7 that it's a huge gap in the Codex. So he's actually Matt Smith in terms of the number of stories we have yet to do for a Doctor is in a distant first place. Like he leads the pack. We have 28 Smith stories still to do. And you think about David Tennant, who has the most stories of all the modern Doctors. We only have 17 more Tennant stories to do. Crazy. And
just to round out that list, Capaldi, Gatwa, and Tom Baker, in terms of the stories that we've most to do, 28 Smith, 17 Tennant, 15 Capaldi, which is wild. 15 Capaldi. We'd often said that Capaldi's the randomizer's favorite Doctor. How can there be so much Capaldi left on the table?
We should also point out we haven't fact-checked these numbers.
These could all be hallucinations.
It also might be counting episodes as opposed to stories. So we could big asterisk around this stuff. But it does feel right. Like I do know there's a lot of Smith that we haven't done. So the exact numbers may vary. We've done a hell of a lot of Tom Baker, which makes sense because he's probably the most prolific of all the Doctors. And but yes, Pertwee and Capaldi, they're all very much in the lead of like the most stories that we've done among the Doctors.
Yeah, let's do a quick count up, I guess, or countdown of the top 5 that we've done. We can swap these off. I'll
top
start
5
with
according in terms of what.
In terms of stories done, according to ChatGPT, and I think it is looking at number of stories. I'm confident in these numbers, and I'm very skeptical of AI and its hallucinations. So, but anyway, at number 5 in the number of stories done by Pull to Open is William Hartnell. Surprise showing for the first Doctor with 16 stories. Mm-hmm. And then, who we got next, Pete?
We got a tie for third place.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that is between David Tennant and Peter Capaldi. They're both at 19 stories.
That so feels wrong. I don't know. Is it just that we kept saying that Capaldi was the randomizer's favorite Doctor?
Yeah, it got a little self-conscious, I think.
Yeah. Wild.
So then we go into number 2. What do you think?
Number 2, it's I'm amazed here, but yes, he shot into the lead recently. I think it is John Pertwee with 21 stories, including the Sea Devils and the Silurians that we did most recently.
Right.
Pertwee, the randomizer seemed to ditch Capaldi kind of at some point during Pulled to Open's run and say, no, give me that other grey-haired guy, that other silver fox. Let's look at his stuff. He's got much more charisma. He's not a better actor, but a lot of charisma. But
like I said,
yeah.
Earlier, I mentioned this already, but the number 1 by far is Tom Baker. He is the most represented in terms of our stories and commentaries. Again, what you'd expect. He did a lot of Doctor Who.
Yep. He's on 27. But only 15 to go. So we're way more than halfway through Tom Baker, which saddens me a little bit, given that Tom Baker is my Doctor. And we'll always be that way, and it's also sad that we're not almost done. 15 more, including a lot of the ones that I remember seeing as a kid. So a whole bunch of Baker nostalgia ahead, still to go. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, it seems that as a percentage of Doctor stories, Pertwee is the highest.
Yeah, that sounds right. I feel like he comes up a lot. Pertwee did a lot of Doctor Who too. I know Tom Baker sort of overshadows everyone in the classic series, but Pertwee's right there at number 2. Yeah, he comes in at 5 seasons. So
5 seasons,
great.
Yeah. Which I always know. I'm scrolling through the seasons on BritBox because that's always the way you kind of find the classic show on BritBox. You have to go season by season. I don't know why you do it that way, BritBox, but okay. Always like, Hartnell, Troughton. Pertwee. Like, it's the first one where, like, hang on, John, like, step back, give someone else a chance, you get that kind of feel
he
to it.
did.
Yeah, he did. And we are glad that he did, and it was all teeth and curls going forward. But
speaking of going forward, I mean, we're going into the second half. What are you most looking forward to now as we keep going? I know we're talking about it's going to be another 5 years. It's probably going to be a little longer because I assume they're sometime in the next 5 years they're going to start up the show in some form and not just do a Christmas special every now and then. We might be doing this for a while. I also just, as a Pull to Open nerd, we're a little bit more frequent in the first 5 years for a while there. So we'll see what we can do in the coming years. But so I'm not trying to scare you in terms of the time commitment. I'm just asking. As we go forward, are you looking forward to any particular story? Are you looking forward to any? What is the story you're most looking forward to just doing? And then also, like, what would you like to see happen with the show itself? Whether
we're asking that question. I'd like to see the show actually. This may be a hot take. A sizzling, spicy take, but I actually think the show should take some time off, and not just out of self-interest and I want the randomizer to I want us to catch up before the show really starts up again. But I think taking some time off, letting everything cool down. I think the Christmas one can put us on a firm footing and at least give us a new Doctor. a definitive new Doctor. Like whatever happens, we're gonna. I hope, right, RTD, we're gonna end up with an actual definitive Doctor at the end of that, and then that can give the extra media, something to work with, right? We'll have a new Doctor of the comic strip, which is one thing in Doctor Who magazine, which is something that I'm always thinking about. Like, what the hell are they going to do now? The adventures of maybe 16,
the missing comic adventures. There we go.
Yeah.
Past comic adventures, something like that.
Something like that. Like they're going to have to get creative with it. But I think so. That's my answer with the show. Let it lie fallow. I'm experienced with the history of Star Wars. It needed those dark times. It needed to sort of stop, percolate, like just let everything settle, let everyone catch up. And then, let the anticipation build again. And then it will come back in a blaze of glory. So that's what I want to see happen in the show. In terms of Pull to Open, I have surrendered to the ride, my friend. I'm just like, whatever you've got. I mean, it does. There are things where I'm like, oh, go on, Randomizer, show us this. Most recently, it's World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls, because we've spent so much time talking about Cybermen and Mondasian Cybermen, the origins of Mondasian Cybermen. It's just such an obvious place to go. I want us to get a bingo on Mondasian Cybermen. I want us to get a bingo on multi-master stories. The joy of that from, and Capaldi's end. In fact, it's rated so highly, and I haven't dared watch it. This is one knock-on effect of the Randomizer, is that anytime I try to do extracurricular watching, the Randomizer has picked that story. So to say, I see you. So that's the thing I've been afraid of. So I'd like to see that soon, but also I'm on this ride, and I'm ready for whenever the Randomizer shows us, what is judged to be, by reasons of Doctor Who magazine, the best story we have left.
Nice. Yeah, honestly, like I kind of thought you might go there. I feel the need, like when my wife orders something at a restaurant that I wanted to order, I need to order something else. But this time I think I'm just going to go like, that is actually the story too, for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. I'm really glad the Randomizers held out on it, because we've had so many different Cybermen stories, and not only have we commented on them, we've had some good interactions with fans. I even said this during one of our recent podcasts when we got feedback on Age of Steel, Rise of the Cybermen. Whenever we talk about Cybermen, their nature, what makes them good and scary and what have you, people have very strong opinions about it. And we get into there's a lot of discussion on the stuff we post, which is great. I think that's amazing. And now, if we once we come to this one, I think it'll be really, really interesting to take all that in and sort of see it from a different perspective than we had maybe at the time, which was obviously more about like Capaldi's era coming to a close and the Master stuff and all this. So I'm really again, I do want to talk about all that stuff too, but I'm already looking at like this sort of new, more layered perspective on the Cybermen that we've sort of been exploring with the fans as we've done it. So there's that.
By the way, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you may notice Pete is a little closer to full cyber conversion this week. We're rocking some new headphones there, or are they handles?
From Cybus.
Yes.
They're new from this new company, Cybus. They're great.
Cybus Industries, yes. A proud sponsor of the show. Thanks, Cybus.
Hold on, a joke's coming in.
Hey.
Good one.
Love that. Yeah. If you're a
that was hilarious.
Premium subscriber, you would have got that joke as well. If you were
exactly. Become a true companion on YouTube, you'll also get the joke. So on the show, yes, I tend to agree. I don't necessarily want in wilderness years. I do think the show does need to really reboot. And I don't mean that in the sense of like I want it to create a new from scratch. I don't necessarily think that's the right idea. But whatever it does, I think it needs to do something radical. And whatever they do to radically change it, the only advice I'm going to give whoever it is honestly, don't listen to me. And which is to say, don't listen to fans of the show. Again, sort of circling back and bookending on what I said earlier, Doctor Who is a phenomenon. It's a mass market show. Again, nothing against fans. I'm a fan. I love being a fan. But I do think sometimes the worst thing these franchises can do is listen to the fans. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and think they're giving us what they want. And I think part of this is, and this, we're not a Star Wars podcast, but I mean, I do think a little bit of what happened with Star Wars was that.
Yes.
There was a little too much reverence for fans and giving fans what they expected, and et cetera. Don't
100%.
Don't
Yep.
do it. Do something like totally different that you wouldn't care that the fans do it. Like, the fans will react how they're going to react. There's nothing you can do about the fans. Pleasing them, not pleasing them, and they go through different phases. It's kind of funny to think about even franchises like Star Trek. And I was a fan of Star Trek, still am. But like, the consensus around what are the best episodes of Star Trek has changed somewhat over time, because fans change, the world changes. So whatever you're doing, like, who cares what some fan's going to be doing with commenting on about it in 30 years? That's going to happen neither here nor there. Just do good stories, do something bold, and
Yeah, people are always
we'll do
gonna
what we
be
do.
mad. People are going to be
Yeah.
mad online. People are going to be mad online no matter what you do. So yeah, just make it a good story. And in the words of the Doctor, all stories in the end, just make it a good one, eh? And that will be true of every new story that we get. There'll just be stories in the end that go into the codex in the end. So just make it a good one. Absolutely. And I think one thing we have to note is like, we bounce around the 80s a lot in this show, and we see, and we saw this with the Sea Devils. Like, that was the first time where the writer was responding to complaints, right? Malcolm Hulke was responding to the complaint about the Silurians with a random piece of dialogue that didn't necessarily belong in the Sea Devils. But then we got the 80s, which was very much the era of JNT, bringing in the fan ambassadors and kind of like, oh, what do you want? Who do you want to see? Who should come back? What do you want? And I think that, that was a big part of the show's decline. It was that it tried to focus on what the fans wanted and kind of got the wrong idea from it, right?
Yeah,
So,
I would say
we
so.
don't want to do that. We don't want to do that
Yeah,
again.
it's definitely something, this is for another podcast, but there have been times when the show has over-indexed on that, and perhaps recently. So
For sure.
just to get rid of that index, you don't even need the index. Just do what you like, do what's good, have a vision, and go with it. I'll go
Indeed.
with you wherever it goes.
Well, we should also index and thank the people who have joined us here on Pull to Open. We've had a number of guests. We should give a special shout out to Elisa Stern,
Our first
our
ever
former
guest.
colleague, first ever guest, and the only one to appear twice. We brought her back for her favorite story, Heaven Sent. But yes, go check out Dr. Puppet if you haven't. That's all Elisa's responsibility. And then we had, in order, Nathan Bottomley, Chris Burgess from Radio Free Skaro, the Cloister Bell guys joined us from my home part of England in the northeast. Dave Kitchen, who's become a major friend of the pod, and I honestly feel like we're sometimes in conversation with the Doctor Who show, and Dave especially, and he's always giving us great feedback on every episode. Thank you, Dave, and thank you again for coming on. And sorry it was the Doctor's wife, but I hope that was worth it. Brian Young, my old pal from Star Wars days, came on. He's been writing the Doctor Who trading card blurbs, and Mark Cockram.
Good gig to get.
Yeah, Mark Cockram, the human
great.
palindrome, came on to join us for Meglos. Meglos, which is one of my favorites. I got to say, that's what I don't think I've had more fun on a podcast than I did when we were covering Meglos. Partly because it's Meglos, it's insane.
Meglos.
But partly because we just had a wild time. We had so much fun there, and that's really been the highlight. And you know what? Another reason why I'm not kind of that concerned about where we go next, even if we go somewhere really bad, and there are a lot of really bad stories ahead, is that another one of my favorite shows was when we did Flux.
Oh, Flux was a good one. That was a fun one to do.
Flux was a good one. It was fun, despite the fact that we had such problems with Phlox itself. And I had many rants about it. The What's Dan's Trade rant, the 7 billion dead dogs rant. Go back and listen to that story. But it made for good podcasting. So
Totally.
there's almost this thing of like you learn more, and Stephen King says you learn more from a bad story than a good one. So yeah, I am not afraid of anything. Bring it on, Randomizer.
Nice. I just also wanted to shout out Stephen Chapansky, who came on for Human Nature.
Human Nature.
And
Family of Blood.
The Family of Blood, that's it. And Ellie Blackwood, who was amazing.
Yes,
what a great
yes.
get for the episode we were doing, which happened to be The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit. And she happens to have an astrophysics degree, so she could actually, like, it was just this weird coincidence. We'd been planning to have her on for a while, and that came up in the randomizer. So you talk about being scared of the randomizer, like
Right?
giving us that episode when we happened to have an astrophysicist on the show.
I don't think I'd heard
Couldn't plan it.
Of planets before. Do you remember? She
Yes.
she told us that planets are a thing, which just blew my mind. Still blows my mind. That is a planet that orbits a black hole instead of a sun. We'd learned that. We've learned so much. Every time we do a history corner, I have dived as deep as I can, or as deep as people let me, on the history of a given episode.
Yeah, I gotta get my hook emoji doesn't pop out as reliably as it used to.
But yeah, I know that's what happens. You get an Oxford-trained historian on the podcast, so you're going to get some history. But I'm always trying to make it like interest. I'm always being a journalist about it, always trying to relate it. But I've learned so much from that, from doing those deep dives, and the things it's tied into. It's just wild. Like, I've learned even more about the history of my hometown in England because of the Planet of the Dead podcast. And the connection to Athelstan, ancient English king, all sorts of stuff that we've discussed. Like, I feel like Pull to Open itself has met the remit of original Doctor Who, the Rethian thing of like, it has to be educational in some way. And I think we've done that.
I think we've done that. And you tell us, though, fans. By the way, one more guest we had, Dalma from Come Along Pod, and she came in and talked about Amy's Choice. That was amazing.
That was perfect timing as well.
Great perspective. But again, you tell us, fans, if you are enjoying the education, the entertainment, the commentary, and please comment on this podcast or wherever you may be finding us. And I also just wanted to thank people who do. Among them, ChemDog on YouTube, also Caroline Merck on YouTube, Kieran on Spotify. I'm going to forget some people, guys. Sorry. Jonathan Riddle, who has has riddled us with many Homojis. By the way, we need more. Keep them coming. And a whole bunch of others on both Spotify, YouTube, and all the socials. Thanks. We see you. We see each and every comment. And also you folks on YouTube now. Oh, sorry, not YouTube. Facebook, where we seem to have hit a critical mass there and are getting a lot more engagement. And we're looking forward to engaging with more of you. Lots of great comments on the video shorts, the podcast itself. We want to do more of that. We want to interact more. And we're going to do our best to do that more in the next 5+ years. Yeah,
absolutely. I do want to say, if you are a long-time listener, but you've never commented on the show in any way, first of all, it's okay. That's all right. I feel you. I'm usually in that position myself. I'm not a big commenter. Do just leave us a quick review if you can, but jump in, comment. Like, we'll mention your name on the air, and we want to know if you're there. We want to know if you are the listener who I remember most. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name, but the guy who was cleaning buses.
Oh yeah.
He said he cleaned 80 buses while listening to this podcast. I think that's a statistic that's stuck in my head. I may be getting it wrong, and who knows how many buses he's cleaned now. But definitely let us know if that was you. And also, did you listen to the Planet of the Dead podcast? Because there's a lot of bus-based content there.
It's got to be at least halfway through the garage, so maybe we're both celebrating halfway points. But yeah, thanks so much for listening. Again, that's a great time. I'm gonna go I'm listening to Pull to Open and clean something. I'm so inspired now.
Yeah, tell us how you listen to us. What are you doing while you're listening? What are you doing right now? Just tell us in a review, or however you want to reach us on your favorite social network. We will give you a shout out.
Even our newsletter. You can comment on our Substack. Maybe we'll even send you a survey and ask you these questions directly. Right. Okay. Well, that's some good times. Looking back and thinking about where we are as we are on. Does this count as summiting the mountain, and now we're going to go down it, or are we sort of halfway up the mountain? And then if getting to the end is the top of the mountain, how do we get down? I don't know. All these existential questions about journeys that we are not equipped to answer. But there are some other questions that we can answer, and those are going to be asked next week when the 4 Questions of Doomsday returns in our regular podcast installment, along with TLDW, all the segments that you guys love. And we're looking forward to jumping back in on the back half of the show.
Which kicks off with the greatest show in the galaxy again, and I cannot wait for that. I've already started watching it, and it is, oh my goodness. We got some things to say in that. We are the show you can also come to and just listen to the story of a Doctor Who story that you are probably never going to get around to watching. We're here for you. We want to provide all the fun and awareness of that story that you need in one neatly packed package. Not sure where I'm going with that one, but
all the awareness and perhaps some self-awareness. And I'm getting self-aware about the time we have taken up on our listeners, and we're probably going to let them go.
Yes,
and await our next installment.
Thanks for listening, everyone. It really is great to be on this journey with you. And send us a message however you want as we turn around and walk back out of the dock. As we're halfway into it, we're heading out of it again. The season has turned. The sun will be getting brighter. We will be getting brighter, I hope, every other week on Pull to Open. Keep it right here, and we will see you next time.
Take care. See you on the back half.